And
I'm gonna grab my coffee. I'll be back.
okay. Stand by. I need to send something to Trish real quick.
This phantom note taker is gonna take notes.
Yeah, I'm trying it out for you, Ellis. So it's taking
Oh,
notes
okay.
right now, and I'll send you the results of this, and then do with it as you wish. It's not always very accurate, lots of typos, but it gets you a good starting place for notes.
It's easier to fix typos than to start out from zero. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me go ahead and get started here. First off, welcome to members, welcome to new folks, and I'll make some introductions here in a moment. I just really wanted to start by opening up. On Saturday, I was actually in the process of negotiating a spot for the UDC's campaign office. I was talking with a longtime realtor here in town who owns a lot of real estate and was actually able to convince him that it might be a good thing. He hadn't done it for 50 years and was ready to consider renting a spot in downtown Livermore, right next to the donut wheel. And midway through Saturday, I started getting texts from him saying, well, are you going to have police security around this building 24 hours a day? And of course, my response was no, I have insurance, but we can't guarantee police presence 24 hours a day. And then a couple hours later, then there was the assassination attempt on the ex-president. So needless to say, that deal fell through. The fear of political violence is real. It's affecting our ability to get a campaign office. So if you know anybody who has a space to rent or wants to share office space as a political candidate, I have the funds, I have the insurance, I have the wherewithal, I have my physical body volunteering, but now we have the fear of political violence. It's unacceptable. What happened is unacceptable. But after the shooting, I saw people, Trump supporters, flipping off the camera, flipping off the press, blaming Democrats for this, even though it's their policies on gun control, their policies on assault weapons, that I believe was the cause of what happened this weekend. You can blame political violence if you want, but if we didn't have 20-year-old kids, 20-year-old abused kids having access to assault weapons, this thing would have not happened either. I want to share something that Bernie Sanders said. He was on Meet the Press this weekend, and I know a lot of you guys don't like Bernie, but I tell you, he hit the nail on the head. He said, political violence in any shape and form is unacceptable. Take a deep breath and remember what politics is all about. It's not about radical rhetoric. It's about a series of conversations about policies. It's kind of a boring discussion. Serious discussions about serious issues. He says harsh rhetoric doesn't have a place in politics. What we need is a nation. What a democracy about is not radical rhetoric. It's about a serious discussion where we are as a nation and how we go forward. He also continued with, what are these serious issues? Starting with climate change, lowering the costs of healthcare, a woman's right over her own body, improving healthcare and Medicare for all, Look at what the Republican Party is doing. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And with that, I'd like to open up tonight's discussion. Tonight, I want to welcome first new members. I'm going to take a look at the screen. Do we have anybody? Oh, I know. Where is he? Steve, do you want to unmute yourself? I want to introduce somebody here tonight who will be coming back to our club to seek endorsement, but I wanted to open up the floor just to make a brief introduction. Steve Lanza will be running for Chabot and Las Positas Community College. And I'm going to let you announce that yourself because I'm going to mess it up for you, Steve. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. So I actually filed today. So I have filed to run. I'm an incumbent. So I'm the current Area 7 trustee for Livermore, predominantly Livermore, a little bit of the southeast corner of Dublin and San Ramon, as it's drawn, representing this region, this area for the Chabot Las Positas Community College District. So I've been on the district for just shy of, well, let's see, actually it's July. So I keep thinking just shy of 2 years, but that will be at the end. So I'm 19 months in and getting great, it's a great experience and it's an incredible organization. And so I'm enjoying it and feel like I'm contributing. So I have Silicon Valley background and I'll share most of this later. So I'll keep this brief because Jackie says I'm coming back next month. But I look forward to learning from all of you. I know several of you on the call already, and look forward to meeting and learning from many of you as we go through this process. So thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else new to the club that wants to introduce themselves, have not been to a meeting? Or Andrea, go ahead, unmute yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Andrea Burnett and I live in Dublin. And I'm glad to be here tonight. So far for campaigns, I'm a avid postcard writer, but other than that, I haven't been to any Democratic clubs besides Rossmore and their events. And so I'm glad to be here. I'm a retired court reporter.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And if you haven't already done so, you can go to our website and sign up for our MailChimp distribution. If you sign up under our website, you'll get on all of our listings, all of our notifications. So I would encourage you to do that. Anybody else?
And also for the candidate, my father was one of the founders of Chabot of Las Positas. He was the dean of students.
Good. And welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the club.
Wonderful. Thank you. I don't see any other new faces out there. Tonight for our agenda, we will be going over some of the current updates of what's happening in the committee. I did invite Igor Trigeb here tonight. He may jump on the call later, who is the chair of the Alameda County Party, to talk about the convention that's starting. The DNC convention starts August 19th through August 22nd, and it's in Chicago. The RNC convention started today. If you saw that, they picked their VP nominee. It's going to be J.D. Vance, a senator from Ohio. He was once a no Trumper or a never Trumper, and boy, has he changed his tune today. So that's what's happening at the RNC. The first thing we were going to discuss or vote on is the Renters for Justice Act. Then we will have Kelly go ahead. She is running for re-election for Pleasanton School Board. So we'll have her speak and we'll endorse on that. And then after we vote on these two issues, we will be stopping the recording and having everybody have an opportunity to just freely talk without it going out on the internet and talk about this election, talk about the recent events of this weekend or anything else you want to get off your chest. So first up is the Renters for Justice Act. I did send out that information to all members. In essence, what the act would do is strike Costa-Hawkins from California law altogether. So it's that entire section of Costa-Hawkins in its entirety. We did send that out to club members. I wanted to open this up for some discussion for a few minutes of people who speak for that bill and people who speak against the bill, and then we'll open it up for a vote. First off, is there anybody that would like to speak in support of the Justice for Renters Act, striking Costa-Hawkins?
Secretary has a question.
Yes.
We're going to vote on a resolution, or what are we voting on?
That we endorse or do not endorse this bill.
Okay,
So
so it's endorsement.
It's
Okay,
an endorsement,
I just
so
wanted to get that straight.
it would just be an endorsement on the Justice for Renters Act if we vote to do that. Is there anybody that would like to speak in support of the Justice for Renters Act? And if you don't know, if you didn't read through it, let me just give you a highlight. Last month, we heard from special guest speaker Daniel Anderson. The Costa-Hawkins Rental Act is currently a part of California state law. It was enacted in 1995. It places limits on municipalities' rent control ordinance. Costa-Hawkins, in essence, exempts single-family homes, condos, and what they deemed new build. And the new build is property or apartments built after the act was enabled in 1995. Or in the case where there's rent control, like in Berkeley or Oakland, any rental units built after 1995 under Costa-Hawkins would be exempt, but also with regard to cities with existing rent control, the act counts as new construction, any built after the rent control ordinance was put into place. So that's what's in current law. If enacted, this bill would strike all that language from the California law. In essence, giving cities the ability to enact rent control on single-family homes and condos and newer buildings. So with that said, I'm going to open it up again. Anybody want to speak in favor for Costa-Hawkins?
I would like to say something.
Strike it. Yes.
I would like to say something. When I asked Daniel Anderson last month who was sponsoring this, he said that the union that represents hotel workers was sponsoring, that is getting the signatures, and this is several $1 million to get signatures, enough signatures to put it on the ballot. And he said that the hotel workers union is doing this because this will provide considerable amount of low-cost housing, which hotel workers want. We're talking about the maids and the people who work at the hotels, which are a majority of the employees. So my feeling is we don't get into the weeds very much, but knowing who's sponsoring it and why tells us very much about what this bill would be. So I'm going to vote for it.
The one thing I found when I did a little research, I was all gung-ho ready to go with endorsing it. And I have to preface that with that I'm a landlord. I have two single family homes that I rent. And, I don't have a fear of rent control because I charge fair rent and I'm good to my tenants and I would always be in compliance even under the strictest rent control. But what concerned me was when I did the research, I found that Buffy Wicks, of all people in Oakland, is against this. And I went, Buffy Wicks, really? One of the most progressive people in our legislature. And what her reasoning against it was she feared that it would stifle construction, that there would not be the incentive to build new construction if you couldn't charge a higher price than the older construction, or single family homes that tenants or landlords, small landlords might get out of the business of renting single family homes, might just sell them instead. So I guess, that concerned me when I saw that Buffy Wicks was against it. And I guess I kind of like to open it back up to maybe some folks that are, like I see Trish online, somebody that's been in city government that knows a lot of this stuff, what their thoughts are on,
Sorry.
this bill.
Yeah, I've been looking here, hang on a minute, let me.
Yeah.
I'm trying, okay, there we go, sort of ish. I've thought a lot about this and honestly, I have very mixed feelings about rent control in general for exactly those reasons. I think the goal, there's two competing issues that I see. One is, how do you prevent, how do you encourage legally, through law, landlords to be the kind of landlord you are? So that is a public good. That's what we would want in general, from our laws, is that everybody's not going to act honorably. So how do we make that happen? The second piece is, if the problem is really we're not building enough, and boy, do I have things I could say about that, and about, people who work really hard to prevent that from taking place, and have worked, and continue to do that. That to me is really important. That is where the energy should be spent. So that's the second hand. And the third hand is, but do we want the perfect to be the enemy of the good? And so I just go round and round with that. I feel like this is not the right answer. I also, again, I'm worried that what I'm trying to do is make the perfect be the enemy of the good. It's not very helpful, but it's what I can offer.
Other comments? Do we have any other city council people on tonight? I don't have the full view.
I'm here, Jackie, but I just got on a few minutes ago. Are you talking about the state?
And we're talking hi Valerie, thank you so much. We're talking about the Justice for Renters Act.
Mhm.
And one of the things that caught my eye is Buffy Wicks is strongly against it, because she thinks that it will stifle construction, that it would curtail, all these people that want to get in to build, and because it would expand, it would get rid of the exemption for single family homes and condos. It gives the cities the ability to do rent control, but it has the whole, it's trying to detour from vacancies. So if you have, let's say I had my sister renting from me for half the price, and then I go to rent to the public, I'm kind of stuck with the price, whatever I rented to my sister, because it's based on the last tenant. It doesn't matter if, you're giving the tenant a deal or not. So I was kind of just asking some of the people that are city council, what are your thoughts? You guys are the ones who have to deal with these housing issues. Do you feel this legislation is going to make it better or worse?
Yeah, and I've heard both sides of this argument. And I don't know, I do have some mixed feelings. I know I have heard that it will deter housing from being built. I'm not sure if that's a valid argument or not. It might be, I don't know. But I also know that, Oakland and Berkeley and San Francisco have rent control. And one of the things we talk about is our younger generations not being able to afford the rent in the Bay Area. So, in general, I'm in favor of rent control, but as a, I know the arguments against it. They might be some valid arguments. So it's a bit of a tough one, I guess. And I think you have to really just evaluate how you feel on it with all of the, both sides of the issue being presented. But I'm not sure how, to be honest, I'm not sure how I feel about it because I see some pros and cons on each side of it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other comments?
I can chime in while I'm not a city council member. I can chime in as a planning commissioner in Dublin. It's also some of the stuff I do around student housing advocacy. What I've kind of heard in housing spaces and kind of regards to those comments through from folks like Buffy Wicks. I guess I would just start off by saying personally, I think one of the biggest things in terms of there's being just an absolute need for reform around current rent control and Costa-Hawkins. I mean, it is just such a city has to go through such a political mudslide in order to have to get a rent control ordinance passed in the first place, especially when you think about the fact that really only certain cities, I feel like, especially of a certain size, right? You think of more urban cities like Berkeley and Oakland and San Francisco have been able to have easily the ability to cobble a political majority towards passing a rent control ordinance. And I think in that way, that is, I think, one of the big differences that I think needs to be addressed, right? And if we want to seriously talk about being able to work with rent control across many jurisdictions across the state, right? That being able to do with a simple council direction that can take in community input without having to make it a very contentious, divisive, elective issue for each individual city as they talk about it. The main thing that I've heard in this concern, and this is something that I think that's been really hard for me to overcome, was not necessarily the fact that, again, it makes it easier to pass rent control through the way that the ballot language is structured, but specifically the potential to stifle construction by the fact that by repealing almost the entire act, including specifically the language on rental rates and how those can be set, that some jurisdictions, particularly smaller ones that have already very low percentages of renter households. So let's say take Beverly, even Beverly Hills is probably not as good of an example, but you take one of the more exclusionary communities like Woodside that has very few renter households. They could theoretically, this is the point I've heard, theoretically, they could set rental rates such that, I mean, you could basically have no rent increase from backdated from a certain point and to a point where it basically would make it near impossible to for any kind of rental project to pencil by not having, again, any kind of state guidance on how much you can set those rental rates or just how much you can cap those rental rates. So I think that's the main concern I've seen, and I haven't really seen any substantive response to that. So that gives me pause. But again, that's kind of what I've taken from that.
Thank you. Thanks. Do we have anybody else on Planning Commission? City government of any kind that knows these housing rules. Yeah, it is too bad they didn't just modify it, maybe change the date from 1999 to 2024 or something. It would have made more sense. And the other thing I thought of is how do they know what that vacancy, what the rate was before? Is, who's going to track this? They're going to be somebody coming from the city of Livermore knocking on my door saying, hey, your tenant moved out. What was he paying? I mean, how do they even track that? That's another thing that's a very interesting.
Trust me, staff is busier than that.
Any other debate on that? For or against or questions?
I guess I will add one perspective that I saw that I think was even more concerning than the pause from some more progressive legislators like Buffy Wicks was, I remember, I believe it was a city council member, a Republican city council member from Huntington Beach, really going all in on this. And that gave me a little bit of pause. So
I read that.
Yeah.
And what they were saying is they feel, these coastal cities feel this will in essence kill new construction. And that's why the Republicans are all for it, because they figure, yay, now we won't have to build this stuff.
Jackie, as a procedure, I don't think that we're ready to make a vote on this because most of us have just shrugged our shoulders and say, how should I know? And I think that would be more appropriate would be to take a vote on whether we're going to vote on this. I guess that's calling the vote, or I don't know what the parliamentarian would like to call it, but rather than stepping into something that most of us are kind of torn on, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Unless we vote on it next meeting.
Well, even putting it off, I don't think we're going to be smarter next meeting.
I do have it as a part of the ballot tonight. I mean, we could definitely, you could definitely abstain and then there would be no vote counted towards it. Or members can vote yes or no. I could take it off there if the parliamentarian and the members deem that that's what we should do.
You abstain, you really are not saying that I don't think the club should take a position on it.
Let me make a motion to pull it from the agenda. I personally don't feel that I have enough information to make a decision based upon what's been shared thus far. I would not be comfortable voting right now, so could we pull it from the agenda?
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All
Do we
in
want a
favor?
parliamentarian to rule in as to whether we can do this or not?
Oh,
That's been the question. And the answer is that there's no specific guidelines in our document that indicates that we are forced to follow any of the guidelines or any of the items in our agenda. Thus, we are free to take and change the agenda at will, and thus we can decide not to vote on this tonight.
Can't we just table the motion?
There is no.
You don't
There's
vote,
a
you just bring it
motion,
back.
there was a motion to pull it from the agenda in a second, so
correct. Do we have all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, I will pull it from the vote, from the ballot for tonight. By the way, the bill is, it's in entirety in the email. So if you click on the link for that Costa-Hawkins, you'll have the entire text of Costa-Hawkins. So what they're proposing is that whole thing just gets stripped out of California law. So it has been sent to members. Maybe we could take this up again next month then, since we pulled it from tonight.
Jackie, can I ask a
Trish has her
question?
hand up.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you said something about the Republican support for this, and I wanted to relate a hopefully brief story that I think is relevant that we should keep in mind as we go forward. And just to remind everybody that people on city councils are nonpartisan. Right after I got appointed, I was elected, not appointed to city council. I was appointed to work on the CASA compact stuff, which was around regional housing allocations. This was, about, 4 years ago or so. No, it was more than that. It was 6 years ago. What I realized is some of our bluest areas regionally are also some of the most anti-housing. And I started talking about people who talk blue and vote red, or, vote blue and act red, something along those lines. And I said that to a council member from another city. At one of the, a Cal Cities meeting or something along those lines. Very nice person. And she just looked at me and she said, I'm a Republican and I'm working on housing. So I think it's really important for us to understand that this is an area where what we do locally doesn't necessarily match what our political affiliations are. And I personally agree I absolutely agree that housing, that housing is a democratic issue. Unfortunately, that's not always the way, or actually, I shouldn't say unfortunately. However, the way that people act in locally doesn't always match those ideological beliefs. So that's my story. I'm done.
Thank you. Kelly, did you have a comment? I know you had your hand
Oh,
raised.
sorry. Yeah, I was trying to find my self view. I finally figured it out. No, I was just going to ask a question if you wanted to re-agendize it, if we could have someone from, who is driving this come speak to the committee to give a little more proper presentation versus leaving it up to all of us to read literature on it. So it was just a clarifying question.
Thank you. We did have somebody speak to this last month, and it is.
Oh, I missed it then.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't rehash it again, because it was discussed last month. I sent the entire Costa.
Yeah, I saw what you sent.
Yeah, I apologize. This week, I'm not very well organized right now after this weekend. Let's just say that. Hair raising.
No, so I'm just surprised that if there was a previous presentation on it, there seems to be a mixed view on it. So yeah, so that was why I recommended to pull it from the agenda, because it seemed to be a lot of mixed. I want to make it right for if we're going to vote on it. So that's all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad. I'd rather pull it than endorse something that ends up being a bad bill. So that's okay. Any other comments on this before we move on to our next segment?
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate if we can find someone to speak, as Kelly said, from those people who brought the issue. So if we could hear from both sides, that'd be wonderful. But I think we can also make it on the agenda to make a vote for next month. But if we decide that we don't have a sufficient base of knowledge in which to make responsible decisions, we'll just cancel our vote next week also, or next month also.
I will re-invite the same folks back and see if they can do their arguments and answer any questions before we put that to a vote. I'll make sure we have those people available.
Wonderful.
Jackie, may I suggest you invite Dean Wallace? He's regional director for Buffy Wicks and former president of this club.
Actually, he's left Buffy Wicks' office. He's working.
Oh, really?
He's working for somebody else up near SAC or something.
Oh,
I don't think he's in Buffy's office any longer. But I could reach out to her office directly.
Jackie, this is Valerie. I think maybe talk to Igor at the Alameda County Dems. He has done a lot of work around rent control. He might have something to offer that might be valuable to this club. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. And Igor was going to try to be here tonight, but he must have got caught up in something.
He just texted me, and yes, he can't make it until later, he said. So he does support this initiative. So I don't know, it might be valuable. He does head our central committee. Might be valuable to hear what he has to say. So maybe for next month, perhaps.
Will do. I will get his talking points if he cannot attend, at least. Any other comments? Anyone? I am going to spotlight our next speaker. And first up, we have been doing some endorsements, local endorsements. I know that there are still some folks pulling papers, and I actually had a complaint that I did an endorsement early before one of the Livermore folks filed. And so, Ron, I'm going to give you this task of maybe reviewing our bylaws to see if we are following, I guess, to ensure that we're not endorsing too soon, that we have enough, that everybody's had a chance to file so that somebody doesn't come out after the fact and ask for our endorsement. Now, obviously, if they were a club member, they'd know we were doing these endorsements. So I always encourage people to stay in touch with the club. So if I'm doing something wrong, my club members can keep me on track. But we're going to go ahead and move forward with our next endorsement tonight, even though, and Kelly, you're going to tell us if anybody's running against you. But our next endorsement is going to be for a member that has been with our club for a long time. She is currently on the Pleasanton Unified School District. She's asking for our endorsement for re-election. This is for Area 3. And Kelly, we know her. She's a longtime educator, a former adult member of the City of Pleasanton Youth Commission, and was first elected to the school board in November 2020. It's with great pleasure that I want to introduce to you Kelly Mokashi for Pleasanton Unified School District.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I'm actually zooming in from my homeland of Iowa. Midwest is dear to my heart, but I'm super excited to be here tonight. As Jackie introduced me, I am a 4-year trustee from Pleasanton Unified School District. Just a little bit about myself. I am from Iowa. I grew up here, did my initial education in the Midwest. My initial opportunity was to teach in Houston, Texas as an art educator, inner city, and then also had an opportunity to teach in Trenton, New Jersey. From there, I had an opportunity to do professional development training for Pearson Education, which is a universal international publishing company, but I did professional development training with teachers in districts nationwide during an era of reform for underperforming schools and districts. So I worked in places like Harlem, Texas, California, Florida on reform, improving student achievement for students who needed success, students of, as we call marginalized now, but African-American students, Hispanic students, allowing for opportunities at that time in CLD. From there, I worked in the nonprofit sector as an executive director for a nonprofit raising adoption grant funds for orphans internationally. Also did online coursework, and during COVID, I had an opportunity to get back into the education tutoring work, helping with online tutoring with all of the COVID relief funding. But most recently, I'm super proud to share that I'm actually back in the school district, and I am working in Fremont Unified School District in the Tri-Valley area as a community school coordinator. If any of you are familiar with the Community School Initiative, it's quite broad, nationwide as well as statewide. And most recently, I was able to award a $1.1 million 5-year funding grant for one of the most neediest schools in Fremont, an elementary school. So I'm back in the district, but at the political level, I have 3 children in Pleasanton, 2 high schoolers, as well as a middle schooler. And I came into Pleasanton elected in 2020, beating an incumbent. I'm super proud of that. But more importantly, during a time when supporting our students during the pandemic and really making a difference. And the initial reason why I ran was I'm saying, hey, I'm doing all this great stuff nationwide, but I want to make a greater impact within our community. And I need to be really honest and say that our work, we've made a lot of progress since COVID, but there's much work to be done. And that's why I am asking for this endorsement. I can share some of the successes I've been able to do since on the board. One of my most proudest achievements was serving as a delegate with the California School Board Association. I just got reelected. And what really is impactful about that was making policy change at the state level. So as a delegate on the school board, I would help with different policies to pass during various elections. One of the policies that came for approval with the state was SB 114 with the screener for dyslexia, which was passed, and super excited that I was able to take part with, actually going to Sacramento to speak at one of the committee meetings. So that was one of the proudest opportunities that I had to serve on the school board, was making an impact at the state level. Now, at the local level, I have had some amazing, great progress work. Not only did we help bring back all of our students, we were the first district in the Alameda County to come back after shuttering. But allowing to help support coming back for intramural sports for our students, as well as helping to fund for our athletics. It's been a challenge in our district in Pleasanton to fund our sports. So I was very instrumental to help with some of the athletics for our students. Some other things that I was able to help progress towards with some of the changing of our policies at our local level in Pleasanton. I served on many different committees within Pleasanton, most recently the city district liaison committee. I've also been on the special education board called SELPA. I also have participated with the facilities committee, and I'm very, very engaged. So there's a lot of things I've done, but there is much work to be done. And it's some of the priorities that for my campaign actually haven't really changed since initially in 2020, but right now, because many districts have deficits. For in Pleasanton, we're dealing with a 13 million deficit, which is huge. I am going to stand for tighter control with the board, conservative fiscal responsibility. I feel that the board needs to take tighter, like a real deep analysis of, where do we need to make changes? I want to have more control in regards to, I feel there's an imbalance between administrative staffing and our teachers. And I'm not proud to state that, our district had 2 near strikes. And so another area that we need to work on is strengthening the relationships with our labor unions from the ground up. And that's actually part of the work that I have been working in my day job, is that transformative leadership, where we're bringing everyone in the community, our students, the teachers, collaborative. So I also believe, and this was in my press release that came out, I really want to instill more of a collaborative decision-making process, that transformative change for long-term change. Our district has done many things well, but I feel that there have been sometimes a sense of feeling of top-down decision making. Now, whether that's true or not, but that's been the feeling that many of our teachers have felt. So there is an opportunity where we need to repair relationships. And I do feel that for someone, I've worked in districts nationwide, I understand how to get to really listen to our constituents, our students, our teachers, and begin to build bridges to help make those decisions, so that it's really more of a collective process. So another area that we do need to continue to work on is the disproportionality, in particular for our African-American students, and our Hispanic students continue to underperform academically. Not only academically, but also they disproportionate for classification of special education, as well as for suspension rates. Now, that has not changed since I've been on the board. So even despite the work that we have done with equity training, once again, we need to work more at the classroom level so that where the students are engaging and building those relationships with their teachers. And how does that change into discipline practices? How to really help support our students so it's less punitive? There also needs to be more tangible strategies to help students at their own level so that every student is successful. In addition, Pleasanton graduates high success, competitive. We have, we have students who come to the board who started up their own companies and they're graduating off, going off to Yale. But I have 3 children in the district and I am proud of their achievements, but I want to support the average student so that it is an opportunity of success for every student. And so that is definitely an area that the district can help strengthen. There's been great progress made, but we need to strive forward so that there's this less sense of competitiveness and that every student feels inclusive within our school community. So those are a couple of the areas of priorities. If you haven't heard, we have a new interim superintendent, Maurice, and one of the decisions as the board, I can just mention it was a board decision. I can't state individually, but one of the areas for the drive was to identify someone who had previous superintendency experience, which I think is great for an interim. But one of the most important jobs that a trustee does, and one thing I would like to celebrate is my strengths, is not only understanding policy change and driving direction and vision for the district, but it's also to hire and monitor the work of the superintendent. So that is one of the most important other points I would make, is why it's important for me to continue to serve my work as a trustee, is so that I can make a greater impact on that process. Because it may kind of overlap with the election. And this is a time where consistency, I understand policies, I understand the role of a trustee, and I am very excited to take part in that hiring process so that we can re-engage with our community to help take us forward, because the next couple months and year or so is going to be very challenging for our district to pivot the direction and come back with some of our deficit challenges. So that's high level, some points. I really do support more of an open dialogue. So I'd like to open up if there's any questions at this point. And thank you for your time and your consideration for my endorsement.
Thank you. I'm going to remove the spotlight so it'll bounce around to the speaker view here for the recording. Any questions, anyone?
I have my standard question, Kelly. What is it in your background that motivates you to get so deeply into the educational sphere? It's very, very impressive. But what makes somebody do something like that? What makes you dedicate your life to the educational system?
It's really tender to my heart. I appreciate your question. I feel like this is something that I was a gift born with. I really, truly believe that the work is not done. I myself struggled as a student. I had a lot of anxiety with test taking. I struggled and lacked confidence in my actual high school career. And it was at a point when working with my grandmother, who inspired, say, hey, Kelly, just pursue your, art passion and going to the arts. And I have that passion to really make a difference. And I feel that the work is not done. Like I said, it's my life passion. I really want to make a difference. My current work at Cabrillo Elementary, I myself recently volunteered. It was not part of my job, but I went down back into my work, helping to teach art lessons during the summer, because to help support that opportunity for extended learning, bringing back that creativity and that spark for students is. Sorry, I got muted accidentally.
Oh,
sorry, trying to unmute my computer, that really drives me. And I just feel like my work's not done. And in particular at the board level, that's why I'm thankful that the role is 4 years, because I think your first year or two takes a while for you to kind of like figure out what you're doing. And the work's not done. And I'm really proud of our accomplishments, but the work's not done. And I'll be one of those that I probably won't ever retire, because that's that lifelong learning process. And I really enjoy what I do. And I'm very passionate about this.
Thank you.
Kelly, I appreciate you saying about the, being insecure in school. When I was a kid, I was a very sick kid and had pneumonia several times during elementary school and lost a lot of school time. And it was hard. It was really hard picking up, even if you just lose a couple weeks. Very difficult. So I appreciate that. And my question to you is, is there anybody running against you? As of the last I looked, I could not find anybody that has claimed they're going to run against you.
Well, in all fairness, the window to pull papers just started today.
Ah,
So I haven't heard of anyone specific who has committed to running. So as of right now, I don't have anyone running against me. So the time for people to pull papers is by August 9th, but I have not heard of anyone specific who has officially pledged.
thank you. Trish?
That's a fair question.
Yeah, well, like I said, I got into trouble with one person running in Livermore City Council, and we may down the road change that, but I haven't heard of anybody as of tonight running against you. So we're proceeding with the vote tonight. Trish?
So these are really more questions of curiosity, of issues that are of the day, so to speak. First of all, I've heard very good things about you, so thank you
And we
for
chatted. We talked about by-area elections before it happened in Pleasanton. We had a very long conversation. You gave me lots of.
Oh my God, I remember. Yes, indeed. All right, so I'll take credit. Yay, Kelly. But
I want to ask and ask lots of questions when I don't know. I'm a lifelong learner, and it's one of my traits I'm super proud of. But yes, what are your questions?
No, I remember that conversation. I totally forgot it, and now, yes, no, absolutely. Okay, but I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm currently reading the book, The Anxious Generation, by Jonathan Haidt, about the effect of smartphones. So I'm curious to know how, what your thoughts are on how to regulate smartphones, or if they should be regulated in the schools. So that's one question. A second is, I can't remember if we talked about this, but we probably did, because it comes up every time I talk about education. My kids were in and out of school. They were homeschooled. They went to, one of them went to Las Positas for a while. Hi, Steve. And that connection between schools, between particularly high school, but just kids and different modes of schooling. I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit. And then the final one is simply, I continue to be concerned. It seems to have fallen off the news for some reason at the moment, but the whole situation with the effect of anti-Semitism that was on the rise, and I'm imagining hasn't gone away. And how, and since that you've got a synagogue located in Pleasanton, I'm curious about that. So that's a whole lot.
Okay, so to start, the effects of technology, smartphones, broader, with students is detrimental. I actually, as I think I mentioned in my Vita briefly, high level, I've written courses online, and one of the courses that I wrote, and my audience have been teachers for continuing professional development, but the research shows that technology usage, excessive technology usage not only affects brain function and how students learn, but also can contribute to additional tendencies towards ADHD, I can attest as a parent of 3 children, and my youngest daughter was born with the invention of the iPad. I can reflect back in some of parenting errors of giving access to technology younger with their development, their dependency on technology, and how parents have to navigate is horrendous. Now, districts, and in particular Pleasanton, I am fully aware of some of the professional development that the schools will provide for parents, but there needs to be more. And the reason why I say that is because in this industry of education, especially with my work in ed tech, there is so much hype to say, oh, we got to do, use this technology tool or this device to teach. And, in particular, the district adopted science textbooks that are all online. And that's actually a detriment because, to learn about science lab work, the students are learning it digitally versus hands-on learning. So I'm more traditional, saying, hey, let's go back to the basics. And there's an entire reform that needs to go forward, especially I know nationally and particularly state level and with a lot of companies with artificial intelligence. It's also another really big endeavor right now. And we need to get some policies around artificial intelligence immediately as well to help monitor the technology usage, because if we as policymakers are not careful, it's going to expand out of control before we can keep up with it. So it's something that I do have grave concerns about, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And that's one of the benefits of me being on the policy committee. That's one thing that I'll be working with Pleasanton if I'm reelected, to put together a tighter AI and update our technology policies. So I think that's a great question. In terms of the second question was modes of schooling, I'm a huge proponent of multiple avenues for learning for our students. There's a lot of talk and training about equity. I have 3 children, and I can personally also attest that I have 3 different children that learn completely differently. And so we need to accommodate opportunities for every student, and not every student may go to an Ivy League college. They do better at trade school. But what that means is that teachers need to have the tools to understand the learning needs of each student so they can ensure that the instruction can meet the students where they're at. And then thirdly, you asked about some of the anti-Semitism and racism and just generally some of the challenges that our districts are dealing with. I'm proud to state that most recently, Pleasanton did work collectively with our committee on revising one of our policies around the misuse of words like the N-word. And so we're working with our parents and community to help provide better policies, but more importantly, tools for our parents to help and teachers to help with our students for awareness. Because even though that particular issue was brought up by our African-American families, we are having challenges with all ethnicities and religions. And it's really, once again, going back to that inclusive element, but how does that actually translate into practice and awareness that we need to accept everyone for their unique identities and endeavors, and to help really address those issues, because kids are being overly exposed and they're becoming indifferent. And so we need to go back, once again, like I like to say, back to the basics. It's like, those general principles that we learned in kindergarten. But hey, we need to be respectful and understand that, we all have something to contribute to our school community. Great questions, Trish.
Thank you so much. And thank you for reminding me of a meeting. Now I just want to get together with you. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Other questions? I must say, before my time's concluded, a huge thank you to Ellis. Ellis was one of the first persons I spoke to pre-campaign and way back in 2020. And I must just attribute a lot of advice and consideration from, you know, just to really help bring me where I'm at. And, you know, there's much work to be done. So, you know, I once again would appreciate the endorsement, and by all rights, I will respect and understand if you need to hold the vote until later, but I really appreciate the consideration.
Any other questions?
We
My
have
pleasure.
three
Thank you.
chairs for Ellis's training of a lot of candidates over the years. You asked the parliamentarian if he had any input concerning endorsement process. Did you want me to read from the
Yeah, actually,
bylaw?
what I think I'd like to do is look at, because what happened is, in reading the Independent, thank you, Joan, I think you're out there today. I saw that there was another candidate for Livermore City Council, and we did not give that gentleman an opportunity to speak, and he is a Democrat. So I'd like us to look at for future, not tonight, because we had this on our agenda. If you're a club member, we've been notifying you, you've been hearing our stuff, but going forward, I think I'd like to get a little closer to where like the Central Committee is, with more formal, you know, going to the voter registrar and getting who is all the registered Democrats that are running, and try to do this after the close of filing. So I'd kind of like you to look at what would be required from our bylaws to make that happen, because we've been kind of, we're pretty informal, and obviously our club, we love our club members, people who come to our meeting every month and are actively engaged. They know what's going on, but Democrats that don't know about our club may not. So, you know, how we can get that word out to more people and engage more folks in this process. And the other thing I want folks to remember is you can get endorsement from the Central Committee, and that is your official Democratic endorsement. And that is coming up. So if you are running for office, the Central Committee does reach out to everybody after filing's closed. And they will try to reach out to anybody who has their paperwork or their email with the county, and try to make a better effort at reaching everybody. So I'd kind of like you to look at that process, Ron, and see what we would need to do to make that happen going forward.
I have right in front of me are laws that I can, in 2 minutes, answer your question. Article 7 of the bylaws is called endorsements. Section 3 is candidate endorsements allowed. It says, for candidate endorsements, the organization shall take all reasonable actions to contact all Democratic candidates for the office and give each candidate a fair allotment of time to present to the organization. There is no hard and fast time limits or statement that we must wait till all of the filings are in. There's nothing in terms of specific times or specific hard regulation. It says that we shall take all reasonable actions to contact all of them. The other, as I read on, it says, furthermore, the endorsement vote shall be held after it is deemed likely that no additional candidates are expected to enter the race, and for all the candidates for a single race to be dealt with simultaneously. So we're advised by the bylaws to take all reasonable action and to make sure in our judgment that we are deeming likely that no additional Democratic candidates are expected to enter the race. There's no hard and fast demands. It just asks us to be reasonable and careful. Okay.
Thanks, Rowan.
Can I make a comment, please?
Yeah, I think we have a couple hands raised first, Ellis. We have Charlie and John, and then we'll come back to you. Charlie?
So one of the things that I just wanted to bring up in regards to this is that a lot of the, like, because the timelines have changed, we've had a lot of our unions starting to do endorsements earlier, as well as we've seen people at Central Committee even trying to push that earlier. Because if we're not endorsing until maybe August or September, it's almost entirely too late to be on anyone's mailing stuff going out, to be having an effective campaign. Like, if you're not already out door knocking, canvassing, and running by like May, June, July, and those time periods, like there's a lot of concern about how viable then is that candidate or that race. And so as the timeline's starting to crunch and move further back, that's just one of the things a lot of the unions are wanting people to keep in mind, is this earlier is what we're kind of needing for how this is shifted.
Interesting. Thank you for that perspective. So we may be on the cutting edge of where they're going. So join a Democratic club today and stay in the loop. Sounds like. John? Unmute, dear.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? I can see myself now. All these pop-ups come up asking me if I want to how many times just this once, always, never. So it's but Kelly, I have a question on the school resource officers that the Pleasanton Police currently has a memorandum of understanding, or I should say there's a memorandum of understanding between the Pleasanton Police Department and the school district. A lot of work was put into that. Prior to that being in place, I don't think there was a memorandum of understanding. And I'm just wondering, what your experiences, or, if that program is, working successfully. I think back to, there was a lot of work that was put into that by the liaison group between the school district and the city. And one thing that struck me is that when parents were asked, a survey went out to 3 different groups. And when parents were asked, do you want police on, the Pleasanton School District campuses? More than 90% of the parents said, yes, we do. When the teachers and the administrators were asked the same question, once again, the percentage response was very high. 90-95% of teachers and administrators wanted the police on campus. However, when the students answered that question, it was like 50-50. I mean, half of the students that responded to that question didn't want the police on campus. Anyway, the police are on campus, right now. And I'm just wondering, how that is working, one, and if you have any, if you could share, if you have any personal opinions about, police on campus.
All right. Yes. Great questions, John. Nice to see you again from the other day. Running to see you at Jeans. So yes, I am honored to state that I have served on the City District Liaison Committee for several years. I'm currently vice chair, and would like to state that I had the opportunity to be on the board when that MOU was finalized and approved. So I can attest to the improvement of monitoring progress of the relationship between the district and the city with school resource officers since that MOU was in place. You are correct. There was nothing in place prior to that. That MOU was actually extended for 1 more year. And thankfully, the city is still currently assisting with full funding for the school resource officers. So that may change in the near future due to deficit issues with both not only the school, but also at the city level. So the city and district are currently working and navigating moving forward how the funding for the school resource officer will be funded, excuse me. Is it working? Yes. Can it be improved? Absolutely. And there's quite a few things that could be improved. To your point, to the meaning of school resource officers at the student level, the reason why it's 50-50 is that a lot of students don't quite fully understand what they do or the purpose of school resource officers. I think there's this general sense of safety from parents and teachers with the presence of a school resource officer on campus. But the district needs to do a better job working and engaging with students at their level so that they understand that, hey, if there's an issue you have or there's a concern and you happen to see a school resource officer and you need to go talk to them. There was a lot of discussion at the city district liaison committee level and also at both the city and the district. Oh, I can't speak for the city level, but on whether school resource officers should wear uniforms and not. And so that was a big debate because, you know, certainly for security, access to weapons if there's an emergency, but also being approachable. So to answer your question, yes, school resource officers are working, but my general feeling is that we need to continue to work with the city and the district long-term to help support because there's been an issue also with employment for school resource officers, being able to hire and secure them in their office for employment because there's been a hiring challenge. So recruitment, sustainability of the school resource officers, and then really taking it more tangible of what their role is, because the MOU is also very, very clear of and what kind of circumstances should a school resource officer be contacted versus being handled at the school level. So I would like to state that there's a lot of debates for and against school resource officers, but what is it really about? It's about continuing to support students and where do they need help and support and the relationships between teachers, officers, and collective good for our students for success and having our students make good choices. So kind of high level, I'd say there's still work to be done because with any program, there's areas of success and areas that could be for improvement. Great questions, John.
Thank you for your detailed response.
I try to be really honest, and so yes, you're right. I do get sometimes very detailed, but yes, thank you.
Ellis?
To get back on track, Ron was talking about requirements for endorsement. And I'd like to remind the club that we had an extensive debate about our bylaws, which previously allowed us to endorse more than one candidate for a specific office. And after considerable debate, we decided only one candidate per available seat. And that's the way our bylaws read. And it seemed to me we're getting into that again with the situation that we're in, where there's a possibility of having not interviewed a Democratic candidate after having endorsed one already. And basically, it would violate our rules if we even considered endorsing that second candidate.
And I don't think I was saying that we consider that, Ellis. I'm saying that we consider making sure that potentially, that is potentially, and you know, there was some good reasons brought up why we wouldn't do that. But potentially waiting and doing it after filing closed. Again, you know, what was stated by Charlie is candidates want to get a run, you know, get a start running. And I'm hoping that Democrats that seek our endorsement are members of this club and have been attending. And that's, kind of my perspective. And I know Ellis said you were always a big one when you were president of trying to get that first endorsement out there, for our given candidate. And we were the first club to endorse Eric Swalwell. So, sometimes getting that foot out the door right away is a good thing. I just thought I'd bring it up because that was raised to me. And I also want to remind folks that the Central Committee is the official endorsement machine, I guess I should say. So if they endorse a candidate, the UDCs go to work for them, they raise money for them, they, hit the ground door knocking for them. So if, I also encourage people not only to seek endorsement from our club, which is wonderful, and we'll work hard for you, but also the Central Committee, where you can get some actual help from the finance side as far as, door hangers and things like that. The committee will do those type of things for their endorsed candidate. So don't forget to file with the committee, because that's also very, very important. Any other comment on that? Before we move on, Kelly, did you have any other closing comments before we move on? I did start to text folks out directly, members, a ballot to vote on. If any
No,
member
just
has not.
Thank you
received
again
your
for
ballot,
the opportunity and consideration. It would be my honor, and I'm looking forward to this re-election to continue to serve our students in Pleasanton and to continue the hard work, because there's a lot of policy change and a lot of work that lays ahead for our Pleasanton district, not only fiscally, but securing a long-term superintendent in place. So I'm looking forward to re-election. Thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. And is there any club member that did not receive a ballot? If you could raise your virtual hand, if you did not receive a ballot. It should be in the chat. So you're looking in your chat window. If you don't know where that is, over in your Zoom screen, there should be some under the word or above the word more, some ... And you should have a chat option there. If you did not receive your ballot, raise your hand and I will get it to you.
Jackie, procedurally, do I abstain from the vote?
No, you can vote for yourself. You're a club member.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
If you want to abstain.
No, just I follow rules.
No, you're free to vote for yourself. Okay, what I'm going to do now. I do have one endorsement, a couple notes before I cut off the recording that's going out on the cloud, and then we'll have our talk session. First off, Eric Swalwell's campaign has agreed to set up a special meeting to meet with the Tri-Valley Dems. I assume it's going to be on Zoom. I'm still trying to coordinate that with their campaign. It's either going to be the week of August 14th or the week of August 28th. So I don't have the exact date and time yet, but I just want to put it out there. As soon as we know, I'll send it to all club members. And I do see a comment here from Joy. She's stating that it doesn't seem reasonable to endorse candidates when we do not know who all the candidates are. So,
Jackie, if
that
I
was
can,
the-
even though I'm not a voting member,
Yeah.
I believe that the next time you meet, so this may be related to the vote tonight, but next time we meet, all the candidates will have filed, right?
Correct. So I believe Alameda County, everything is around August 8th or 9th, I believe was the 8th Thank you, Charlie. So by next week, we should be clear. Anybody else who asks endorsements. And we did get a request to listen to the at-large candidates for Oakland City Council. So we're trying to dig up all the candidates for that race. So mark your calendars, watch for the note from the TV Dims for the special event with Eric Swalwell. Also, postcarding is going on with Livermore Indivisible. I will send that information out to all club members as well. So for those folks who would like to do postcarding, especially in the heat, it's going to get hot again next week. Look for that information coming from the club. And thank you to our partners, Livermore Indivisible, for all the good work that they do. And then Madhu, do you want to make your announcements before we get into our talk session?
Yeah, that sounds good. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks, Jackie, for handing off the mic. I just wanted to give some updates on McNerney Field and where we're at. So now we have resumed our phone banks. We have phone banks every Tuesday and Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. We've also resumed our canvases. We have a canvas coming up this weekend, this Saturday in Pleasanton, from 1 to 4. And we have another canvas. Actually, we're going to be at Charlie's canvas on the 27th. And so we're just going to be there to support Charlie Jones for school board. And we're going to be knocking on doors with them, and it'll be a lot of fun. Charlie, thanks for dropping the link. So please come out to one of them if you can. And if you can't walk or you don't want to, phone banks are really easy to do. I'll send Jackie the information, the sign up information, the dates and times after, and she could email them out to you guys. But yeah, I just wanted to give an announcement. Does anyone have any questions on the campaign? Okay, Jackie, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the day after Charlie's event, we have the Tri-Valley UDC event. You will see that invitation come directly from me. This is not the Tri-Valley Dems Club, but this is the Tri-Valley United Democratic Campaign, which is the fundraising arm for the Tri-Valley area of the Alameda County Democratic Party. So right now we have $8,000 in our coffers. And I have a commitment for at least $3,000 or $4,000 right now for this fundraiser. Please come out and see us, buy a ticket. It's a good time to come out and meet all the different candidates, talk to people. And if you are running for office, we really want your endorsements and your sponsorships. And we will, if you get the endorsement of the Central Committee, the UDCs go to work for you and help your campaign. So with that, I'm going to now turn this, I'm going to stop the recordings. I'm going to, hold on, stop my recording.